so incredibly glad that you joined us here today at Church on the Rock. Now, if this is your first time, let me encourage you to go to jesusistherock.org. There you can find anything about our church history, church leadership, and you can even visit our messages archive where you can watch videos or listen to audios of our previous sermons. Now, if you would like to give to our ministries financially, you can easily do so by going to jesusistherock.org and clicking on the giving button at the very top right-hand corner of the screen. Now, as we prepare ourselves for this message, let me encourage you to dive into God's Word with us.
Well, today we're going to talk about cleaning up and making space in our finances. And it's not a message on tithing. You can go ahead and breathe in, breathe out. It's okay. But finances is something that touches and affects most of us. People always get excited when you talk about money. If you don't believe it, reach over and ask your neighbor if you can borrow $20. See how excited they get. Turn to Luke's Gospel, chapter 16, if you have your Bibles and want to read along with us. If not, we'll get the scriptures up on the screen for you. Great little story that Jesus told here. In verse 1, he says, Jesus told this story to his disciples. There was a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. One day a report came that the manager was wasting his employer's money. So the employer called him in, and he said, "What's this I hear about you? Get your report in order because you are going to be fired." The manager thought to himself, "Now what? My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches. I'm too proud to beg. I know how to ensure that I'll have plenty of friends who will give me a home when I'm fired." So he invited each person who owed money to his employer to come and discuss the situation. He asked the first one, "How much do you owe him?" The man replied, "I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil." So the manager told him, "Take the bill and quickly change it to 400 gallons. "And how much do you owe my employer?" he asked the next man. "Well, I owe him 1,000 bushels of wheat," was his reply. "Here," the manager said, "take the bill and change it to 800 bushels. Well, the rich man had to admire this dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. And it is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of light. Here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your earthly possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. If you're faithful in little things, you'll be faithful in large ones. But if you're dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with a greater responsibility. If you're untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you're not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? No one can serve two masters. For you will hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. To move forward, let's go back to verse 13. No man can serve two masters. You'll hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. The Pharisees, who dearly loved their money, heard all of this and scoffed at him. Then he said to them, "You like to appear righteous in public, but God knows your hearts. What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God." What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God. Powerful stuff. First thing I want to do this morning is burst an illusion for you. People sometimes, we get disillusioned, but to be disillusioned means you had to first believe an illusion. You had to believe something that wasn't true. So I'm going to burst an illusion for you, and I want to tell you something that maybe nobody else is telling you, and that is there is a big difference in your standard of living and your quality of life. Don't ever confuse the two. See, society tells us they're the same thing. Society tells us if I raise my standard of living, I'll raise my quality of life. And that's simply not true. In fact, some of you, your standard of living is higher than it's ever been, and still you're not enjoying the quality of life. Some of you make more money right now than you've ever made in your life, and you still argue over money, you still stress over money, you still worry about stuff. You're making more than you've ever made, and the worry's still there. A higher standard of living does not necessarily mean a better quality of life. In fact, just the opposite is true many times. See, you can raise your standard of living just by living with debt. You can shoot your standard of living on up there. There are people that are standing in line to loan you money. But you raise your quality of life with discipline and patience and wisdom and peace and doing away with debt. You want to raise your quality of life? Begin to eliminate debt in your life. And you start eliminating stress and anxiety. You sleep better. You get along with people better. But the ugly truth is, and this is an ugly, ugly truth, the ugly truth is most of us like debt more than we do discipline. We like debt more than we do discipline. See, when it comes to our time is limited. So we have to limit what we do with our time. We've only got 24 hours in a day. We have to limit, and then it's over. But when it comes to money, we don't have to limit what we do with our money because of debt and a lack of discipline. We can just spend and spend and spend. And when we spend all of our money, we just throw the plastic down and charge and charge and charge. And when they're maxed out to their limit, we just borrow again, and we borrow from Peter to pay Paul, and we're all this trying to do this. Don't ever confuse these two things. In fact, what do you suppose God's more interested in? Your standard of living or your quality of life? I think we know the answer to that question. But let me ask it another way. Let's take God out of it for a minute. Let me ask you this. If you're married, which would you rather have? A great marriage with joy and peace and laughter and fun, or a terrible marriage with really cool cars and lots of stuff, lots of things? Now, some of you are laughing because you've tried this. You have like these really great cars and a great house and lots of stuff, and you don't want to go home at night. You just want to drive around your little Ferrari. And guess what? When she hears your little Ferrari pull up, she tries to find something else to do because she's not excited about you being there either. Got more money and more stuff than we've ever had. Make more money than you've ever made, still have no peace because you fell for the lie. You believed that a higher standard of living would bring you a better quality of life, and it just hasn't worked. You got duped, you got conned. Now, I want to tell you a few things that I believe I know about you. And the reason I know them about you is because I'm one of you. Some quick things that I believe I know about you. Maybe not all of you, but some of you for sure. Number one is you're living on a percentage of your income. And you probably don't know what that percentage is. Everybody's living on a percentage of their income, and you probably have no idea because you've allowed life to drive you to that percentage, and you don't even know what that percentage is. Number two, you think if I just had a little bit more, everything would be fine. How many has ever thought that? I'm not asking to be a millionaire. I'm not asking to be rich. If I just had a little bit more, things are so tight right now. If I had a little bit more, we would be okay. And the reason for that is because we've never chosen a percentage. And we've allowed our income to dictate our lifestyle. And number three, and this one is huge, but if you answered yes on number two, I can almost bet you number three is true. Chances are you felt the same way when you made a lot less money than you make now. Am I right? In fact, If 10, 15, some of you, if you're old enough, go back 20, 25 years ago, that if somebody had told you you would be making the money you're making now and still feeling financial pressure, you would have laughed in their face. You've got to be kidding me. If I ever make X amount of dollars, if I ever get to that level, if I get a job with those benefits, man, I would be golden. You would never hear me complain about money again. I would be in paradise. Now here you are. Reached your goal, maybe exceeded your goal. You have the same stress, the same worries now that you had then, and sometimes worse. Because the interesting thing is, that will never, never, never change, no matter how much money you make, until you make some big changes. And this is where the Holy Spirit starts ringing my bell. So, we talked about the first week, we talked about our limits. This is our absolute limit with our schedules, with our finances, and with our relationships. And we can't get any more than that. So, I mean, that's where we can't spend another dime. We can't do another thing and put another thing in our schedule. We can't take one more stress on our relationship. But today we're going to look at, let's say, this is our income. And hopefully, this doesn't necessarily have to be by thousands. Maybe it's by hundreds. Maybe it's by tens. But with the cost of living and you're growing and being at a place longer or whatever, hopefully your income has kind of done that. And probably that if you're like most people, then as your income goes up, our spending kind of goes up too. And, it sort of follows that right there. That's the idea. Now, this right in between here, what did we say this was? That's space. That's space. And what we hope to do is we hope to create space in our income and our outgo, in what we bring in and what we put out. That's what we want to try to do. This is space. And the thing is, we all want this. Christian or non-Christian, believer or non-believer, it doesn't matter. We all want this space. We sleep better when we have space. We argue less when we have space. We're more generous when we have space. We have more peace, more joy. We just enjoy life more. And the more space we have between our income and our outflow, then the better off that we are, the happier we are. So knowing this, would you agree that we should do whatever it takes, legally and ethically, that we should do whatever it takes to create some space in between our income and our outgo? Because life is just better when you have space, when you have breathing room, when you have a savings account or a retirement account, or you have discretionary money that if you need to go get something, you can go get something, because the washing machine is going to break down at some point. And things are going to happen. The car is going to need this. You're going to need some discretionary money to give, money to share, not stressing to live week to week, month to month, hoping that the money doesn't run out before the month does, hoping that you can get. But the sad truth is, this is where most Americans are. This is where most Americans are. And it doesn't matter if you make $20,000 a year or $200,000 a year. If this is your spending, your income, then our spending is usually right there. Am I right? And occasionally even there. We start spending money we don't even have. We start stealing from our own future. We're borrowing money now from our future. We're charging things now that down the road it's going to rob us of our own future. This is hard for some of you to believe, but if you make $30,000 a year and your spending tracks your income, if in 5 years from now you're making $150,000 a year, you would still be feeling the same pressure you feel right now, maybe worse. So how could it be worse? I'll tell you, if I'm making $20,000 a year and I suddenly lose my job, that's a bad thing. But you know what? In my mind, I'm thinking, I can probably get another job to replace that $20,000. I probably can. I can hoof it down to McDonald's, or I'll get over here and somewhere I can find that. But if you're making $150,000 a year and suddenly you lose that income, ooh, the stress level goes through the roof. How am I going to replace that? I'm not that skilled. I'm not that smart. Where am I going to get, and I've already got my lifestyle, this house and these cars and this stuff. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to replace that? What happens is you become a slave to your income. You become a servant to debt. And your debt and your bills dictate your lifestyle, where you live, what you drive, what clothes you wear, where you go on vacation, where you eat. You've become a slave to your debt, and your debt is your master. So the question then that begs to be asked is, who would do that? Need I have a show of hands? We would do that because we do that. We do that. We do that with small incomes. We do that with big incomes. Now, the crazy thing is that Jesus, over 2,000 years ago, predicted this. He tells this story in this parable in Luke 16 about a master and his servant, how the servant handles his money. And then Jesus ends this parable with this statement: no man can serve two masters. And we get that. We've all maybe worked in a job where everybody wanted to be the boss, and I don't know, should I listen to you? He wants it done this way. She says do it like this, and I don't know who to listen to. I don't know what to do. Everybody's the boss around here. That's tough. No man can serve two masters. Or maybe you're a teenager in the household, and if you go ask Dad for some money, Dad's going to cough up the money quicker than Mom will. But Mom will let me stay out at night, so I'm going to go ask Mom. No man can serve two masters. You have to choose one or choose the other. Any animal with two heads is a beast. And then Jesus drops this bomb. You would expect him to say, no man can serve two masters. No one can serve God and the devil. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. You know why? Because he knows us. 2,000 years ago, he knew us. Before Visa and MasterCard and Discover, he knew us. And what he says is no man can serve God and serve money. You can't do it. He said that if you're a slave to debt, if you're a slave to your bills, you're a slave to stress, you cannot effectively be a disciple of Christ. If God is saying to you, I want you to go bless this person. I want you to be charitable over here. I want you to create some space in your life right here in your income. I want you to have some peace and some joy. And your response is, I can't. My bills won't let me. I can't give to this person. My credit card company won't let me. I can't be a blessing. My mortgage company won't let me. I can't tithe. My finance, I promised you I wouldn't preach on tithing, didn't I? Jesus is saying you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice. You have to make a decision. No man can serve two masters. You can't serve God and money. And then Jesus goes on to say, a little later, he says, now, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Don't worry what you're going to eat, and what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear, where you're going to live. Don't worry about it. And you think, don't worry? God, have you seen my bills? Do you know what my income is? How am I supposed to not worry? And Jesus replies, my Father and your Father knows that you need these things. He knows you need food. He knows you need shelter. He knows you need things for your kids to be in school, and he knows that you need clothes to wear and all of these things. He said he knows that. He also knows that you need some peace and some joy and some contentment. He knows that you need to not worry all the time, not stay stressed out about this all the time. But in order to have this, you must choose whether you're going to serve Him or serve the money. What's the answer to it? Well, I'm going to give you 4 things really quickly. Number 1 is, first you have to decide. And I know that sounds oversimplified, but to be honest, it's the most important one. You will never get out of debt until you decide to. You will never be financially free until you decide to. You will never serve God rather than money until you decide to. I mean, it's like exercise. Nobody says, the reason I don't exercise is I just don't know how. I just don't get it. I don't understand how to do it. And even though there are instructional videos and all that stuff, let's get honest. We don't exercise because we don't decide to exercise. And if we do decide to exercise, we don't commit ourselves to that decision. Number 2, you need to create a space goal. A space goal. That's the area in between your income and your outgo. Whether it's 5% or 10% or 20%, whatever, the percentage is not that important, but you need to create a percentage. I always tried to teach my girls. I've tried to teach other people. I haven't always done it myself. I'm back where now it's become a priority in my life because this sermon has made so many changes in me, has spurred me to make so many different decisions. But I've always tried to teach people that a great start, and this is not an absolute, it's just a good model to start with, is what I call a 10-10-80 plan. The first 10% of your income goes to God. The second 10%, you pay yourself. The second 10% goes into a long-term savings account. When I say savings account, I do not mean a delayed spending account, where I put it in and then 2 weeks later it's coming back out to do something else. No, I mean it's going into a long-term savings account, and then I learn how to live on 80% of my income. Number 3 is spy on your money. Spy on your money for at least 2 months. You write down to the penny every penny you spend. If you go through McDonald's and get a quarter pounder and fries and it's $5.95, you find you either in your phone, on your laptop, your computer, QuickBooks, on the back of a piece of cardboard, something, you write down McDonald's $5.95. Everything here. And if you do that, then you won't get to the end of the month and say, what happened to the money? I mean, I just got paid 3 weeks ago. Where'd it go? Have you been buying? What did you do? And in the war zone, buddy, who spent the money? Where did the money go, right? Well, I know where it went, right here. It went right here. There's a little saying that says you have to be knowing where your money's going. You have to be knowing where your money's going. If you don't, it's just chaos. Nobody ever knows where it goes. It just goes away. Money just goes away. It just like it evaporates unless you get disciplined to write it down. The last thing is, get you some help. Don't be afraid to get some help. There's so many great tools out there. One that I recommend that I've been in lately is one called Financial Peace Reconsidered. And it's a book and a workbook by Dave Ramsey. I'm even thinking about doing maybe a mini-series on Wednesday nights with it. But this gives you real-life, workable, doable strategies to get yourself out of debt and become financially free and stay financially free, no matter your income. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to include some things that's going to hurt. Even more than this sermon. You're going to have a credit card cutting up party. You're going to have to learn when you pull something out of the mail and it says pre-approved, don't even open it, just trash it. Pre-approved is the worst thing you can open. But it starts with a decision. It starts with a decision, and there's so many good tools out there. Choose you this day whom you will serve. No man can serve 2 masters. Who's dictating your life and your decisions right now? Don't answer that, but to yourself. Honestly, who's dictating your life and your decisions right now? Is it God, or is it your income, or your debt, or your bills? let me throw in this one last little thing. And I want you to get it seared into your brain. If you forget everything else, remember this, and this one thing right here will help you so much. I want is better than I owe. I want that new car is better than I owe for that new car. I want that pair of shoes is better than I owe for that pair of shoes. I want to go eat at this restaurant is better than I owe to go eat at this restaurant. Because let me tell you what happens when you go to eat at this restaurant and you don't have money to pay for that. And you take your family out to a nice restaurant, and let's say the bill's $100. And you go up there and you don't have $100 cash, but you got you a credit card and you throw that thing down, sign your name, you think, man, that's the best meal I've ever had, and nothing but a signature. I love this, man. This is great. Bill was $100. You know, if you're already carrying a balance on that and you're paying minimum payments on that, you know that 5 years from now you're still going to be paying for that dinner? You know that you're going to pay 4 to 5 times. You'll pay $400 to $500 for that dinner you just ate. I want is better than I owe. Because when we start owing and owing and owing, then that money and that debt and those bills become our master. We cannot faithfully serve God and still serve money and debt. If you're not a Christ follower, this is just good advice. You just got it for free. If you are, I believe this is a mandate from God. Your quality of life is so much more important than your standard of living. And I just hope and pray that this will inspire you, like it has me, to make some decisions that I will be financially free.
Again, thank you so very much for joining us here today at Church on the Rock. Now, if this message spoke to you in any way, or maybe you have a prayer request or need, get in touch with us. You can do that by going to our Church on the Rock Facebook or Twitter page, or you can even email prayer@jesusistherock.org. If you would like to give to our ministries financially, you can go to jesusistherock.org and click on the Giving button at the very top right-hand corner of the screen. Now, have a blessed day.